blame a little bit is Matt Ryan. I cannot, for the life of me, understand how it is that you can quarterback a team with two of the best wide receivers in the league and not be putting up more points on the board. What was it? Julio Jones scored his 4th touchdown of the season this past weekend?
Mm-hmm.
How's that possible? How doesn't this guy have 10 TDs at this point of the season? I mean, it just shouldn't happen, and I gotta blame him for not getting the football in their hands. Those are the guys you have to get the football to every single week. Each of them should be getting 10 targets, no questions asked. And that doesn't seem to be happening. They don't have a running game, which, I mean, you have to blame everybody up and down from general management through the coaching staff. They're making some poor decisions. The best we can tell as outsiders as to who should be playing and who shouldn't be. But I don't think. I still think what's true is that Arthur Blank will not hold the coaching staff responsible. At least not Mike Smith. We'll see Mike Smith go on for one more season, unless it gets big in the media and there's some sort of pressure or fan backlash. Why would he? Because I think Mike Smith toes the team line the best. And to his defense, to his defense, let's blame the defense. I mean, the defense seemed to come out this week, but they didn't give up any passing touchdowns. But at the same time, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
But during the course of the season, they're not playing well at all. Now, the other saving grace is that they're still in the playoff hunt in their own division.
Yeah, I wonder how. And people are going to call me just a Cutler fool, but Jay Cutler has the.
Wait, how did Jay Cutler get up?
Because
how did we get back to Jay Cutler?
Because Jay Cutler. My point is, Jay Cutler has a higher QB rating than Matt Ryan. Okay, Jay Cutler has completed a higher percentage of his passes than Matt Ryan. He's thrown more. Cutler's thrown more interceptions, but Matt Ryan has not played lights out ball by any stretch of the imagination. And Matt Ryan has just as much talent on his offense that Cutler has on his offense. So why does Matt Ryan get to float above the fray? Why is he beyond reproach? You don't hear anybody talking about Matt Ryan not being able to carry this offense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I do. It's a discussion. That's all. I won't beat it.
It is.
I won't beat it into the ground any more than I already have.
Okay, we'll see about that.
You're like, I don't believe you. Oh. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Tennessee Titans 43-24. Mark Sanchez proving himself serviceable for one more game. 30 of 43, 1 touchdown, still threw 2 picks. Still Sanchez, I don't care what you say. To me, the encouraging sign if you're a Titans fan is Zach Mettenberger going 20 of 39 for 2 touchdowns and a pick. What'd you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you actually look at his numbers, and I discussed this in our waiver wire report for this week, I have him as a potential add for your team depending where you sit in terms of your roster. If you need a backup, if you need a 1 week pick up and play, maybe you're just a person that's out of it and you just want to have fun at this point. Mettenberger's your guy. If you look over the last 3 games, every week they're giving him more and more passes. I mean, he threw over for 300 yards and had a couple of TDs. And he's a rookie in his 3rd game of the season. And you got to like it because he's also got a favorable schedule coming up. And I think it's impressive. I think it's one of these things that we need to pay attention to at the end of the season here as we start looking ahead to 2015.
It's the Jake Locker watch is over.
Oh, yeah, by far. I mean, every single quarterback that has been benched this year, Jake Locker, E.J. Manuel, Geno Smith, did I miss anybody?
Not that I can think of.
Those 3 guys will not be starters next season. I'm sorry?
Mike Glennon.
Yeah, Mike Glennon. None of those guys will be starters in the NFL unless they get onto a new team. Otherwise, they're all backups at this point in their careers. I can't see teams picking them up should they be free agents and saying, "Oh, we're going to have them as our starter." They could pick them up as a backup and then they become the starter, but it won't be the reverse.
The land of Frank Reich for all of you. I jettison you. How about the Detroit Lions getting walloped by the New England Patriots, 34-9?
That was brutal.
Yeah, LeGarrette Blount all of a sudden, hi, Steelers, you hate me, look at me, I'm rushing for 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Jonas Gray gets put in the penalty box because he overslept for practice. Tom Brady, 38 of 53, 53 pass attempts in a winning effort, 2 touchdowns at pick. Matt Stafford threw 46 times, completed only 18. Ugh. Oh, no touchdowns and a pick. Calvin Johnson, only 4 catches for 58 yards. Some of the imperfections of the Detroit Lions starting to show up against the upper echelon teams, no?
Yes, absolutely. It's not good. It's not good. I mean, more than likely, and I think we both would agree to this, we don't expect them taking the NFC North. That's something that the Packers should do. And if the Lions can squeeze into the playoffs somehow through a wild card, I'm finding it difficult to see who are they going to play past, because they've played a bunch of the good teams and they're losing to the good teams. I will say that they'll have a fair enough shot this week against the Bears, but the Bears aren't a team that I'm looking to make the playoffs either.
But the Bears are still in the hunt. There, I'm just going to throw that for the record.
Yeah, they still are. They're a wild card. They're out there.
How about
Absolutely.
this? The Patriots lead the Lions 24-6 at the half. And by the end of the game, the Lions still hold a time of possession edge.
That's crazy.
That's just Belichick just saying to you, you can't stop us, and I'm just going to beat you over the head.
Yeah. There's a guy that'll pile it on the first opportunity he gets.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. He has no conscience. The man has no conscience, no soul.
What befuddles me of the Lions' predicament is you start looking around at their situation, you're saying, so what's the problem now? You went out and you got yourself a second wide receiver. You have the number 1 receiver in the league. You've got 2 great running backs. Certainly one of them wasn't healthy enough to play, but a more than qualified backup. You've got a blocking tight end who can catch a football. You drafted a rookie that can catch a football, who, by the way, was targeted, I want to say, 7 times this week, so it wasn't like they weren't trying to get the football in his hand. But at the end of the day, all you have to show for it is 6 points. I mean, somehow, some way, regardless of how blanketed both Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate were, you have to move the football up and down the field and score. And if they're not able to do that, I'm not sure what else the Lions can possibly do. They need to have a winning formula.
All right. The Green Bay Packers edge the Minnesota Vikings. This was a game that I came away really impressed with the Minnesota Vikings. Not because I think they're going to all of a sudden win out and make the playoffs or anything like that, but I think that this team as a unit, as a cohesive gelling unit, I can't think of a better term right now, took a giant step forward in just playing these guys really tough, because the Packers are playing as good a ball as anybody. Only the Patriots are first, in my mind, in my eyes. So to come away with only a 3-point loss, with all of the distractions with Adrian Peterson in the previous week, whether he was going to come back or whether he wasn't. They go and claim Ben Tate off waivers. Clearly not a vote of confidence for Jerick McKinnon. Teddy Bridgewater handled himself pretty well. 21 of 37, 2 touchdowns and an interception. He's still making rookie mistakes, but the Vikings defense holding Aaron Rodgers 19 of 29 for 209, but still gave up the 2 touchdowns. What did you take away from this about the Vikings? We know what the Packers are. What did you take away about the Vikings?
Well, the Vikings are pretty much an offense away from being relevant in the NFL. I mean, their defense, I think we've always known, was a pretty good defense. They obviously need to play consistent ball, and they need to win games. But unless you can put points on the board, I mean, they're one of the least scoring teams in the league. It's not going to get you anywhere. There were some positives that you could take out of the game. Probably the biggest one was Teddy Bridgewater throwing the football a little bit more and a little bit more effectively. And how about that kid, Charles Johnson, product of Grand Valley State, Division II, had a bunch of red flags, but seemed to come through. And in 2 seasons, he had over 2,000 yards receiving, I want to say 31 touchdowns and a boatload of receptions, like 150 over 2 seasons. He's jumped around between a few different teams over 2 seasons, and here he is, and he does something that's relevant. And he shows up better like a veteran like Greg Jennings, a talented high-round draft pick like Cordarrelle Patterson. So I think the Vikings have shown that they've got players. They've got people that want to come out and play football every single week, and now they need to separate the people that really want to be part of the Vikings organization from the people that, quite frankly, don't want to. What I take out of it is this is a young and up-and-coming team. The arrow is certainly pointing up, but there are pitfalls they're going to have to get around. They're going to have to get around through another off season, getting back together and getting through the grind and showing up for week 1 of the football season. And probably turning over some of the roster in many surprising ways. So we'll see what happens for him, but certainly this was a good game, and if you were a Vikings fan, I think you could hold your head up a little bit high, even though the coaching staff probably gave the team a hard time after the game.
Indianapolis Colts 23, the Jacksonville Jaguars 3. And this game was, I felt so bad for Jacksonville. They played Indianapolis really tough in the first half. And then even in the second half, they give up the 1-yard touchdown run to Trent Richardson to make it 13-3. But then they just get their backs broken with a 73-yard touchdown pass from Andrew Luck to T.Y. Hilton. You look at the Jaguars, Blake Bortles 15 of 27 for 146 yards. That's just not going to get it done. Couldn't run the ball. The Colts, on the other hand, they ran 35 times for 175 yards and an average of 5 per attempt. Andrew Luck, his usual efficient self, 21 of 32 for 253 and a touchdown, no interceptions. I keep wanting to say that the arrow is up in Jacksonville. I think that they're acquiring more talent. They just haven't been able to seem to put it together for 4 quarters. How much more time do you think Gus Bradley has?
I think he's got one more season. I think he's got one more season to get his rookie quarterback up to snuff and to get that defense humming. I mean, you could sit there and make as many excuses you want that the offense isn't executing and my defense is on the field too long. We're missing certain key pieces, but after a while, that just doesn't get you anywhere. And, you know, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that Blake Bortles, while if you look at his numbers, they're pretty good for a rookie quarterback. Just in 2014, if you compare him to all other quarterbacks, they don't seem very good. You know, he's shown promise, and he ought to be given a chance. I don't know that I necessarily believe that Denard Robinson is a long-term solution at running back, but you have to tip your hat to him, and you have to like what he's been doing. And I think there's still questions amongst the wide receivers. But, you know, that having been said, this team's just like the Vikings. They need to show up, and they need to have a complete game. And until that happens, it's going to be their problem.
The Cincinnati Bengals edged the Houston Texans 22-13 in a game that saw Cincinnati go up 16-3, and then the Texans got a little swagger back with a 60-yard interception return by Jonathan Joseph, and then made it 16-13, and then the Bengals just ground them to death. Ryan Mallett ends up with an injured pec, whether he had it before the game, depends on who you talk to. Are you ready to say that Cincinnati is back to form? They're 7-3-1 right now. The Texans, you know, I thought they'd be better than this. Nobody else did, but I did. It's a little disappointing. I know that Arian Foster was out, and usually their offense goes as he goes. Are you ready to say that the Bengals are back? Because they struggled after their bye, something mightily.
No, I'm not ready to say they're back, but I'm ready to say that this is a good football team, and everybody needs to respect them. I think they've got a very favorable matchup this coming week. They ought to win the game. Their defense ought to show up and play really well. But whether or not they have the wherewithal to get through the rest of their schedule remains to be seen. And it's going to be important because you've got 4 great teams all battling for first place, and potentially 3 of them are going to be strongly disappointed. They'll look like the NFC West from last year, where all 4 put up decent records, and yet only one of them can move on. or two of them can move on, and the third could be a team that's been playing well and is just not going to make it. So